You're listening to Honestly Aging by VigRHealth, a podcast where we explore what it's like getting older, the peaks, the valleys, and everything in between. In this season of Honestly Aging by VigRHealth, we're covering topics related to solo aging. I'm your host, Cheryl Proska. Let's grow old together. On today's episode, I'm joined by Annmarie Francis and Erin Price to discuss the topic of caregiving. Annmarie is COO and co-founder of Leta Loving Homecare Services Incorporated. She has been in the healthcare services for over 30 years. Her love and admiration for her grandmother brought her to the healthcare field. Annmarie and her sister took care of their grandmother when she became ill and unable to care for herself. The love, appreciation, and happiness they've seen in their grandmother's eyes became their inspiration for creating Leta Loving Home Care Services. They opened the home care service agency in honor of their loving grandmother and are now providing the best care services on the market for those who know they deserve nothing less. Erin holds a master's degree in social work from Westchester University and is a licensed social worker in the state of Pennsylvania. She specializes in geriatrics and is certified by NASW as an advanced social worker in gerontology. Erin has been working in the healthcare field for 11 years. She spent the past 10 years working with older adults in a continuing care retirement community setting where she oversaw the social services departments responsible for the independent living, personal care, and memory care areas. Erin enjoys working with Friends Life Care members to find solutions to enhance their quality of life using a person-centered approach so they can live their best life possible. Annmarie and Erin, welcome and thank you for being here. How are you both today?
Good. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Oh, absolutely. So you both are joining me today so that we can together demystify the caregiving experience by sharing what you've learned through your many years working with the aging community. I would love to start by learning a bit more about both of you, your background, and really your why behind working with older adults. Annmarie, can we start with you and can you share your story? I know that you've been a caregiver and why you started Leta Loving Home Care Services and then how you eventually got involved with Friends Life Care.
Yes. Good morning again, Cheryl. So I got involved in home care in 1990. My mother actually got me involved in home care. Didn't know that I would lead to this path, but so we started in 1990. I started as a home care, caregiver, and then further on my education in home care services by going to school for 6 months and so on. And as far as the Leta Loving Home Care Services, we started it. My sister, my business partner, Charmaine Denson, she is in the military. So she has been in the military for 23 years. And after leaving the Navy, she was looking at a business venture, and she was trying to do like any little business that she can to further her career. So she was looking into even beauty supply store from UPS store and even a used car dealership. And so she was researching what business she could do. So one day she sent me a link to home care services. and it was like a franchise of home care services. And I was like, oh, this is great. You should do this because this is a great industry. And she's like, no, but this is your passion. So I said, yes, maybe we should do it together. And that's how we started in 2019 with the home care services. And of course, in memory of our grandmother, that was truly near and dear to our hearts. We named it, my grandmother's name was actually Leta. So that was too difficult for anyone to pronounce. So we just shortened it to Leta. So it's Leta Love and Home Care Services. And that's how we got started with Leta Love and Home Care Services in 2019. And as far as getting involved with Friends Life Care, I am a huge fan of like yard sale and estate sales.
Mm-hmm.
So one weekend, that's my hobby. So one weekend I went to an estate sale. Excuse me, and the person who was running the estate sale, we got to talking and having a conversation and so on and so forth. And she knew certain some of my previous clients that I had. So I gave her my business card and said, here you go. We have a home care service. If you ever know anyone who needs our services, please give me a call. And she said she sure will. And then a few months later, I took a vacation. I came back with September 2021. And on my desk was a phone number. It was her mom that called me and was interested in service for herself. And she told me that her daughter gave her our information, and she was a part of. She was a Friends Life Care member, and that's how we got started with Friends Life Care.
That I didn't know that story until right now. And it's amazing. It's one of those small world experiences.
Yeah.
And we're so grateful to have you and your team to partner with us, to help us care for our members when they get to that stage in their lives, when they do need that respectful, dignified type of care. So we're so glad to have you.
Thank you.
And Erin, can you tell us about your background and what sparked your interest in working with older adults?
Absolutely. So when I was in high school, my mom always was trying to encourage me to go into a retirement community. She always said that was her favorite job she ever had, and she really thought that I would enjoy it. And there was a couple of retirement communities that were close to me, and I kept applying, but their wait list was really long. So finally, by the time I got into college, they had accepted me. And I started working there. And at that point, I really didn't know what I wanted to do as a career. I thought I wanted to be a dentist at first. So I was going to dental school. And I very quickly realized that was not for me. So after that, and, kind of working with the older adult population and starting to understand what my mom was saying about how wonderful this population is, the connections that you make with people, the stories that you hear, and just how neat it was to be a part of that kind of community. I decided that that's what I wanted to do, but I didn't quite know how I wanted to fit that into a career. So while I was in college, I transferred to Westchester my second year, and they just happened to put me in a social work class because I didn't get to select my courses at that point. Your first year, they don't let you if you're a transfer student. So they just put me in a social work class. And all the pieces kind of came together at that point for me. So not anything that was ever really planned per se, but it just sort of all fell together. So during that time, I decided to switch my career to social work, my major to social work. And they put me in with a retirement community. And I worked with them. And eventually that turned into a job for me. So they created a position at that community for me. And it kind of grew from there. I started out as the independent living social worker. And then eventually I started to oversee the other areas of personal care and the memory care unit. So nothing that I had ever thought I would be doing. I just kind of knew this was the population I always wanted to work with, and things just sort of fell into place.
It's so interesting because I have kind of pieces from both of you that led me to where I am in my career. So my first job ever was in dining services at a continuing care retirement community. And I loved it. And I loved working with the older adults. And I always wanted to get back into the industry. And Friends Life Care afforded me that opportunity. And I have never taken care of a grandparent. However, I am so close with, I have one living grandparent now. However, my whole childhood and to this day, my living grandparent, I'm still so close with her. And I think that also fueled my interest with the aging population. Annmarie, it looked like you had a reaction about working in dining services or something at a retirement community, or was I reading into that?
No, just that, my first job was dining services as well.
Mine too.
I did everything.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
But it helped no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
We've all from a younger age been exposed to what I'm saying are some positive experiences with the older population that helped us, we're demystifying caregiving, demystify what it's like to engage with and work with older adults. And it's a field that people shy away from, but it is such, in my opinion, a wonderful profession. So it's so nice to be able to connect with other people that have experienced the same thing.
Yep. Yeah, I was one of two people in my whole class that wanted to work with older adults. Everybody was going towards kids. So it was really easy for me to get the internship I wanted, which ended up turning out to be a really great thing. So, yeah.
And our population is getting older, and there are more older people every day. And there is, even if we're solely looking at career opportunities, big opportunities for people to get into the aging services field. So that's my pitch. And let's switch gears a little bit, because I do want to start talking about and get your perspectives on what does caregiving really look like? And I have a couple topics jotted down I think we could get into. So a couple examples, why you may need a caregiver, what a caregiver can and cannot help with. And then I'd love it if we could hear possibly a real life example of a caregiving experience you've had. Annmarie, do you want to get us started?
Why you may need a caregiver? If you have limitation in physical health, physical or mental, health, or cognitive functioning, it doesn't have nothing to do with age. Caregiver comes in many forms of, anyone can need a caregiver. And an older population thinking that, because they're older, they need a caregiver. But no, that's not always the case. Anyone can use a caregiver, but if you see that you're limited to what you can do, and you're starting to get, have limitations to what you can, how you can help yourself, you may need someone to, to give you some assistance.
Do you have anything to add, Erin?
Yeah, no, I think anyone can use a caregiver. I think you're absolutely right, Annmarie. I think depending on the situation is, people do really bond very well with a lot of caregivers. They start to become a part of the family, which is a really great thing, especially for our solo agers who may not have that themselves. Yeah. But yes, caregivers come, people use them for all sorts of different reasons. Cognitive impairment is a big one. Physical limitations that's another big piece. Some people use them just a couple times a week to help them get a shower twice a week and do their laundry for them, and that's enough. Other people have them around the clock, 24 hours, to make sure that they're, dignified and staying in their home, and those wishes are being met where they are, ending their lives where they want to. Right. So there's all sorts of different reasons that caregivers are needed, but I would say the two biggest pieces are physical or cognitive decline for sure.
Sometimes companionship as well, Erin.
Yeah, you're very right.
Yeah, like you said, a lot of people don't have families or, anyone close to them that's available. So, just for companionship, just want someone to talk to or to help them with their errands and, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah, but I've seen a lot of times where that companionship piece almost becomes more important, like I said, specifically for our solo agers than the actual tasks that they were originally hired for, because they really do create a really strong bond with people.
Yeah.
So let's move into what a caregiver can and cannot help you with. And Erin, you want to start this time?
Sure. So they can help you with all sorts of different things: bathing, dressing, continence care, feeding, transferring, toileting. They can also do things like laundry, make your bed for you, light housekeeping, medication management, which is a huge one. They can remind you when it's time to take your medications. Things they can't do are in the medical realm. So if you have like a injectable medication, they can't do those sorts of things. If you have a wound that needs dressing, they're not really supposed to be doing those sorts of things. But all the things that they can do really help you to have such a better quality of life and stay where you want to stay, which typically for most people is in their home, indefinitely in many cases.
Right.
Is there anything you'd like to add, Annmarie?
Yeah, it all depends on some agencies are medical and some are non-medical. So if you have medical agencies, they have like RNs or LPNs that can help you with the wound care, or you're putting your medication together for the week or so. But it is a lot a non-medical home caregiver can help you with. And Erin summed it up with all the assistant and bathing and activity of daily living and so on and so forth.
So Annmarie, are you willing to share with us an example of a caregiving experience you've had?
Oh my gosh. I have had so many over the years. What kind of experience are you looking for? One thing I'm not supposed to be doing, or just, I've worked with families from anywhere from a day to 13 years. I've been with one family for 13 years. And after you get to know the family, it's like your family yourself. And it's like, I've had so many different clients in my life that left an impact on me. People I would never forget. And I still talk about up to this day. And I had a lot of good experience. I've learned a lot from all my clients that I've had in the past. And I'm still in communication with a lot of the families that I've served in the past. And, but I've had a lot of good experience and some not so good. I prefer to leave the bad ones behind, but and focus on the good ones that I've had, and keep a lot. But I've had people that treat me like I was a part of this family, and it's really special to feel that way. And they made me feel like I'm someone, I'm special as well, and with respect and dignity, same as we're supposed to be treating them. So I have a lot of good experience in the past. So.
And one thing I wrote down, and it keeps jumping out at me with everything you're saying, is how important it is to have a connection. And that helps also with people who may be experiencing loneliness or social isolation, where seeing their caregiver may be one of the best parts of their day because they're getting that connection with someone. Would you prefer to age independently in your own home or live in a nursing facility? I know what I'd rather do. Friends Life Care membership offers just that. Plan today for a future lived at home with vitality, independence, growth, and resilience while protecting your savings. Learn about your options at a free seminar or webinar. Register at friendslifecare.org/register or call 215-628-8964. Welcome back to Honestly Aging by VigRHealth, where today I'm joined by Annmarie Francis and Erin Price to discuss caregiving. So Erin, I know your experience from Annmarie, while different, I'm wondering if you too have either an example of caregiving or even some type of connection you've made with an older adult in one of the positions you are either holding or have held in your past.
Sure. So I think talking about caregiving experiences, there's one that always kind of pops into my mind that I had in the past, which I feel like is a great example specifically for solo agers of how caregivers can really be such a great help. I had a case several years ago where there was a person who had an end-stage terminal diagnosis, and they were living by themselves. All their family was not close by, so they were in a sense sort of a solo ager because their family, they actually lived in completely different countries on totally different time zones, weren't able to easily get to the United States. And it was during COVID too. So that was an even bigger challenge when places were not even allowing people to visit, their families to visit. So there was one person who got terminally sick, and I had worked with them and we found a caregiver, and that caregiver went so above and beyond. And I think that's really pretty common. I think it's not as unusual as we think. I think a lot of caregivers go above and beyond. And they made sure that this person was comfortable, that they felt safe, that they were happy and could still enjoy the activities that they wanted to do while they were in this really unfortunate situation with only a few weeks left. And they ended up being there. Even the family came in and the family said, you know what, you've been such a great help. I really want you to be here. And they invited them to be there the entire time until that person passed away. And they were at their bedside with their family. And even in those short periods of time, you can make such a strong connection. And it is, Annmarie, I think it's such a special connection that I don't know that I can understand from your perspective, but from watching it from the outside, it's really incredible what caregivers can do for people. And that one situation just really sort of sums up how much they can help you in, all sorts of different situations.
Yeah, it's true. I've been there until the end for a lot of my clients, sadly to say. Usually when I have them, I keep them because we get that connection. I can work with anyone, so I work around you. So I learn your ways and your likes, and get that connection with you and do what you want me to do instead of what I think you should do. And so when I get the cases, I keep them until the end most times. I've seen a lot, and it's very touching to be around, to have that connection, and then you see the person to the end. And it's sad, but you feel that you've done them justice, and you did all you can to make their life better until the end.
Yeah, and I have a lot of people who had caregivers, even not during end-of-life situations, and either they or their families or both still keep in touch with the caregiver even after the person passed away. I know there was one who they used to do like a little annual memorial, and they would invite the caregiver and they would come and celebrate that person's life, especially in the cases where they were with someone for many years.
Yeah.
And I have been to a handful of funerals where in the eulogy, the person giving the eulogy will thank the caregiver or caregivers who were there with their loved one, exactly as you're saying, until the end. So it just becomes this very strong connection. And it's really resonating with me what you both are saying. And it was even making me tear up a little bit because I know how emotional it can be there to be with someone at the end of their life. And my experience has been with a family member who I simply adored. So to know that you can develop that relationship outside of that family, it's just touching. And I'm so grateful to hear about your experiences with that. Well, on a little bit of a different note, I want to get into the fact that having a caregiver in your home, someone helping you with your activities of daily living, can be an unfamiliar situation. And there are some questions and anxieties at Friends Life Care that we often hear. And I have 5 questions, and I'd like to pose them to you, and I'll rotate back and forth with one person starting first, then the next person starting first, and then of course you both adding. So the first question I have is, what might you say to someone who is nervous about having a stranger in their home? And can we start with Erin?
Sure. I would say that's perfectly normal. I think any one of us would be nervous to have a stranger in their home, particularly when you're talking about that kind of intimate care that a caregiver does provide, which could be uncomfortable for even our families to provide us, let alone someone we don't know. So I would say it's a very normal thing. A lot of times, if the situation allows, it's helpful for them to have a couple of times where they get to meet the caregiver and spend some time with them before the care starts, so they can sort of grow that bond. Unfortunately, that's not always what can occur. Sometimes you do need to have the care right away. And I would say just at that point, it's really important to have really clear communication with your care coordinator, with your caregiver, with the agency on what your expectations are, what you're comfortable with, what you're not comfortable with. One big thing that people always need assistance with a lot of the time are showers. And that is pretty much uncomfortable for anyone, I would say, in that situation. And there are different workarounds that caregivers can do depending on the situation to make that more comfortable. Sometimes, just standing outside the shower to have someone there is enough. Just assisting with different parts of the shower, they certainly will make sure that you're, as dignified as possible during that situation. But I would say it's a perfectly normal feeling. And, it's just something that, unfortunately, as we age, asking for help is really hard. It's really hard for any of us, but especially when you've been so independent for so long, and now you have someone coming in helping you with these intimate things. And it does take some time. So I would say give it a little bit of time to grow that bond. It will become more comfortable, but it's perfectly normal to feel uncomfortable with a stranger coming into your home.
Yeah.
Do you want to add anything, Annmarie?
Yeah, sometimes families are worried about the background of their caregivers, or if they're gonna steal from them, or in that situation. So we try to reassure them that all of our caregivers are properly screened and ran criminal background check on, and so just give them a chance. And everyone has anxiety about certain things. So it just, like Erin said, it's perfectly normal to have anxiety. Just try to reassure them that it's okay. Just give them a chance, and they may like it. And most times they do. After they give their caregivers a chance, they like it.
Yes, you're totally right. I would say even my hardest cases where people were saying, I do not need a caregiver, I do not want in my home. After they're there for like 2 or 3 times, oh, I love this person. Can they come more often? It really, that bond grows quickly when you're in those sort of intimate spaces. It really does.
That's why I say give them a chance to see, don't just, because if you go in with a negative mindset, or you're thinking, okay, it's not going to work, I'm not going to like this person that's coming, just think positive. Just give them a chance to come in, meet you, and and get to know you a little bit, and before you get too nervous, because it's okay. We all have to go through this at one point, or a lot of people go through it, and a lot of people are nervous and have lots of anxiety with it.
And I think the caregivers know that too. So they're used to being a stranger that's coming in to someone's home. So they do what they can to make you feel comfortable, knowing how most people feel about it.
Right.
So one thing I've heard you both say that might help with some of that anxiety would be setting expectations. Mm-hmm. So how can expectations among a caregiver, the individual receiving care, as well as that person's support system be established and communicated? And can we start with Annmarie?
Okay. Communications. You said between the caregivers and the persons giving care. First, our caregivers are our frontliners. All communications come from them, and once you grow, like I communicate with all my caregivers, and we have a relationship that we can talk to each other and whatever. And I always tell them, please do any changes or anything going on. I keep in touch with them a lot. Sometimes 2 in a day we keep in touch with them to make sure that whatever the communications are through the caregivers. The caregivers communicate with us at the office here, supervisors, and then we communicate with the family members, or the family member can communicate with us as well. And we have to, when we meet, initially we go out and we meet with the family and the client, and the family member will tell us what they want. So you have to give us your expectation right there up front, what you would want to be done for your family member, like, how you want this done. You have to let us know up front. So when we put it on the plan of care and relay it back to the caregiver exactly how they want it to be done, so they have the expectation already that this is how it's going to be done. So that'll help a lot for the family member to give us the expectation up front and right away. Then, because once you start something one way and they say, no, I didn't want it that way, that's not how it's supposed to be done. You have to let us know in the initial visit how you want care to be done for your family member.
Yeah, I agree. I think that initial visit, that when the agency comes out, it's so important to really kind of have thought previously about what your expectations are so that you can really accurately voice them in that meeting. As a member of Friends Life Care, you also have me or another coordinator, wellness coordinator available to you to help with that process. So I can help you come up with what your expectations might be. I can also assist you if expectations change and you're uncomfortable talking about that with the caregiver. You can call me and let me know, oh, I thought I wanted something this way, but you know what? It's actually not working out how I thought. I'd really prefer it to be this way. I can help with that too. So I also, as a Friends Life Care member, communicate with the agency, with the caregiver, and can be kind of a bridge if that's an uncomfortable situation or uncomfortable conversation that you're not feeling comfortable having.
Yeah, and I must say that Friends Life Care coordinators are great with communication. They're great, So we have no problem. They let us know from the beginning to the point. They put it out for us so we can have all the details that we need, and I really appreciate that.
So now we have our plan for expectation setting and communication. How might we establish a relationship of mutual respect, dignity, and trust among the group? Can we start with you, Annmarie?
Well, trust, respect, dignity. Trust and respect goes together, and it goes both ways as well. So we have to know that we have to respect each other for this all to work. The family member, the client, the caregivers all have to have that mutual trust and respect. And trust is earned. It's not just, you don't just get trust. Trust is something that you have to earn. And once the caregiver get in there and start with the client, and some caregivers like go above and beyond the call of duty, and the family members get to like them and trust them, and like trust is something you have to earn, and respect is just should be given to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. I think trust is definitely an earned thing, and I think sometimes that can be a little tricky at first when you have a stranger at home. But it does get there eventually after some time and creating that bond. But I think it's just as important for the member or the client to respect the caregiver as it is for the caregiver to respect the client, because that's where those really strong bonds form. And that's, everyone deserves respect. So I think that's something that is absolutely on each side, and that needs to happen in both parties.
So what happens when an individual and a caregiver don't connect? Can we start with Erin?
Sure, that's a great question. So it happens. I mean, we're all human, right? There are people that we get along with naturally and that we naturally don't get along with. So sometimes you might have a couple of caregivers before you find that one that you've got a really special bond with. And that's where, again, communication is so key, because if you're finding that you're uncomfortable in this already sort of uncomfortable and what can be a little bit awkward situation, let your coordinator know right away. And sometimes people are okay voicing that to the caregiver or voicing that to the agency, but in a friends life care situation, you have me as sort of the middleman. And if there's a situation that you're uncomfortable with, the sooner you tell me, the quicker I can do something about it. So we can get a different caregiver in there. That's okay. You don't have to get along with the first caregiver. Like I said, we are human. It does sometimes take a couple of tries to get that perfect fit. So it's very normal. It's, basically we want you to be comfortable in this uncomfortable situation, and whatever we can do to make that work, we will. So the communication is really key, especially as soon as you're starting to feel that way. It's a lot easier to kind of nip that in the bud initially, because maybe there's just one little thing that's going wrong that, we can, Annmarie and I could talk to the caregiver or whatever, and maybe we could salvage that relationship. And just, it might be one little thing that wasn't being done the way that that member preferred. And that can just be fixed with an easy conversation. And then all of a sudden, you have a good bond and you're feeling comfortable, or it might just not be the right fit and we just get somebody else in there. But letting me know, letting the agency know as soon as possible is definitely key.
Erin, I agree with you 100% with that one. Sometimes we have a caregiver that walks in someone's home and they call, "Oh, I don't want this caregiver," just right away off the bat. I'm like, "Why not? What's wrong?" "Oh, she's too young." I'm like, "Okay, but you have to give her a chance to prove herself to you or himself to you before you can make that judgment. You can not just say, 'Oh, she's too young, so you don't think that she can do her job.'" And so I said, "Could you please give them a chance, just at least a day or two, to see what they can do?" And then by the end of the week, they're like, "Okay, I love this caregiver. I'm going to stick with her," and so on. Because they learn a lot from younger. They like the energy, the younger energy sometimes. And sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're like the more mature caregiver, which is fine. But, I ask them just, for the first day or first hour, just please give them a little bit of chance to prove themselves.
Yes. And I would say more often than not, once they give the caregiver a chance, or once they let us know what is making them uncomfortable and we can talk to them about that, normally we don't have to switch caregivers out. I would say it's not super common that we have to switch caregivers out, but there are times where we do, and that's fine too.
Exactly. True.
So the first season of the podcast, we are doing topics geared to solo aging. And my last question does go hand in hand with that. What guidance might you have for someone who is living alone, that solo ager who needs a caregiver? And let's start with Erin.
Sure. I would say that caregivers can really be such a huge support and really grow into family, like Annmarie and I were kind of talking about earlier. And that's so important for solo agers. I think to have someone that they can trust in a different capacity than what, you can trust a friend with, in that sort of situation is really important, to allow them to have dignity and quality of life in the choices that they're making for their end of life decisions or for their caregiving decisions, because caregiving is not always end of life. It is a lot of the time, but a lot of the time it's not. So it really, I think specifically for our solo agers, is that much more important to have a caregiver, because it sort of extends your family. It gives you a person you can trust, someone you can rely on in those really sort of vulnerable situations and times in your life.
Oh, I would say a caregiver is not there to take over your life. We're there to help you enhance your life, to make your life more comfortable, and so you can stay in your home where you're more comfortable and live longer and a better quality of life. We're just there to make sure that you're okay. We don't want to take over. We want to do what you want us to do, and that's what we're there for. So if you're thinking about getting a caregiver because you need one, please don't hesitate because of that. Just give them a chance to see what they can do for you.
So in closing, I'd love to hear from both of you. What is like 1, 2, 3, your biggest things that you would like someone who's listening to this podcast to really take away from this conversation? And let's start with Annmarie.
Take away from this conversation. Like I say, we are here to help you, and caregiving is not always for people who are older or in need of services because you cannot help yourself. It just is companionship and errands, and so if you think you need a caregiver, and please do not deny yourself of it, because everyone in life needs help or going to need help one way or the other. Couple years ago, I fell and I damaged my shoulder, and I needed help getting dressed. And I was okay with it because I know I'm in this field, so I was okay with someone helping me get dressed and helping me take a shower and so on and so forth. But don't deny yourself. If you need help, please get it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a big takeaway is, it's hard for everybody to ask for help, but it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
And I can't stress how much it's okay to ask for help, because so many people just are not okay with that question. Hey, I need help. Can you help me? So I think my biggest takeaway for this would be just ask for help, accept the help, and allow it to grow into something that might be a really beautiful thing that that might be missing from your life. You can, all the quality of life, the dignity that they can provide you with, the different things they can help you with, that some people can still do things on their own, but you know what? At a certain age, if you want to save your energy for something else, it's a great time to get a caregiver. Maybe you can still go grocery shopping for yourself and drive yourself to the doctor's appointment and do your, all of your activities of daily living on your own. But maybe you don't want to waste all of your energy on those tasks. Maybe you'd rather go play bridge with your friends or go see a movie and, save your time for that. That's all something that caregiving allows you to do. So I think, it's okay to ask for help would be my biggest takeaway from this. And that caregiving is a really great way to help you stay in your home for as long as you can.
Annmarie and Erin, thank you for this candid conversation about caregiving. I think we set out we accomplished what we set out to do. We demystified the caregiving experience, and I'm just so humbled by your dedication to the aging population. Thank you for your time and being here with me today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to Honestly Aging by VigRHealth. You can find links and show notes from this episode on our website at friendslifecare.org/podcast. Thank you to Annmarie Francis and Erin Price for joining us today. You can learn more about Annmarie and Leta Loving Home Care Services on their website, letaLovingHomeCare.com. They are also on Facebook. You can learn more about Erin by visiting our website, friendslifecare.org. Erin is also on LinkedIn. Links to all can be found in the show notes. If you like our show, please rate, review, subscribe, and join us next time. To learn more about aging with vitality, independence, growth, and resilience, subscribe to our blog at friendslifecare.org/blog.